Newark Liberty International Airport. Gate C-118. It's 3:14 p.m. on a humid Thursday in July. A woman in her mid-30s strolls quietly through the terminal in black jeans, a gray hoodie, and worn white sneakers. No assistant. No suitcase worth flexing on Instagram. Just a slim black backpack and an elite status boarding pass tucked in her back pocket. She steps into the United Sky Lounge, where champagne flows and every detail screams exclusivity, and the moment she enters, the room tightens. She walks up to the front desk and presents her card. The lounge manager, a tall white woman named Rebecca Holmes, gives her a once-over, slow, precise, almost surgical. Then she smiles. But it's the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "I'm sorry," Rebecca says, voice dripping with practiced politeness. "This lounge is for elite diamond members only." The woman raises an eyebrow, calmly slides her black metal elite diamond card across the counter. But Rebecca doesn't even touch it. "We've seen fake ones like these before," she adds, sharper now, and glances at the security guard like they've rehearsed this routine. "Please escort this guest out." In less than 90 seconds, 2 airport guards show up. They don't ask questions. They don't check her ID. They just reach for her arm. What no one in that lounge knows, not Rebecca, not the security guards, not the dozen business travelers watching through their designer sunglasses, is that the woman they just humiliated isn't just a passenger. She's Avery Johnson, billionaire tech founder, CEO of Airlink, the mind behind Newark's entire smart terminal system. She doesn't just have elite status. She owns the contract that powers this entire airport. And in the next 20 minutes, she's going to make phone calls that will get 3 people fired, shake up a nationwide airline, and trigger a media firestorm that no one saw coming. This isn't just about a lounge. This is about what happens when people who judge by appearance meet someone who builds the system they think they control. So buckle up. This flight's about to take off. It started with a glance. A quick, sharp once-over from Rebecca Holmes. The kind that isn't just visual, but evaluative. Like a human barcode scanner searching for luxury branding, corporate polish, and the scent of belonging. Avery Johnson, in her gray hoodie, black jeans, and no-name sneakers, didn't pass. Rebecca's lips curled ever so slightly as she scanned the black metal elite diamond card Avery slid across the counter. "Where'd you get this?" she asked, not out of curiosity, but suspicion. Avery remained calm. "I'm an elite diamond member. Name's Avery Johnson. Flight 218 to LAX. Rebecca didn't blink, didn't check the system, didn't even touch the card. Instead, she straightened her spine and motioned subtly to the security guard standing 10 feet away. "Carl, can you come here, please?" Carl Monroe, early 50s, salt and pepper mustache, former Marine turned airport security, approached with trained authority. "Problem?" he asked, glancing from Rebecca to Avery. "This guest is trying to enter the lounge using what I believe is a fake elite diamond card," Rebecca announced, loud enough for everyone in the sleek waiting room to hear. A few passengers looked up from their tablets. One man adjusted his AirPods. A woman in heels smirked. Avery's jaw tensed, but her tone stayed measured. "That card is real. I earned my status. And I'd like you to scan it before making assumptions." But Rebecca was already shaking her head. "We see this all the time. People flash metal cards thinking it gets them into places they don't belong." Carl turned toward Avery. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave the lounge." "I haven't even been checked in," Avery said. "Why don't you just verify my credentials?" Rebecca folded her arms. "I trust my instincts. And my instincts say you don't belong in here." That word, belong, hung in the air like smoke. Then Carl reached for Avery's arm. Not aggressively, but with finality. "I'm asking you to step out, ma'am." Avery didn't resist. She just stood still. "What exactly about me says I don't belong here?" Carl didn't answer. Rebecca didn't either. But everyone in the room knew the answer. It wasn't her ID. It wasn't her status. It wasn't the boarding pass, or the card, or the barcode on her reservation. It was the hoodie, the sneakers, the skin. And as Carl gently ushered her toward the glass doors, not one staff member questioned the decision. Not one executive walked over to verify the data. And that, Avery would later say, was the moment she stopped testing the system and started dismantling it. The lounge smelled like citrus-infused linen, and soft jazz hummed overhead, the kind of curated ambience designed to whisper, "You made it." But for Avery Johnson, the moment she walked through the glass doors of the United Sky Lounge, she didn't feel like she'd made it. She felt like she'd trespassed. She stepped up to the front desk, offering a polite smile to the woman behind it. Rebecca Holmes, lounge manager, early 40s, hair pulled so tight it looked sculpted. Her uniform blazer was spotless, and her expression unreadable at first glance. Avery reached into her back pocket and laid down the card. Black metal. Elite diamond. The kind you don't just earn with miles. You earn with influence. Rebecca's eyes darted to the card. Then to Avery. Then back to the card. A pause. Then the look. It started in the eyes. A flicker of something cold. Disbelief, maybe. Disdain. Definitely. Rebecca leaned in slightly, as if inspecting counterfeit cash. She didn't touch the card. Just stared. "I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice sharp like she was slicing words instead of speaking them. "But this lounge is for elite diamond members only." Avery kept her tone neutral. "I am one." Rebecca tilted her head. "Is this your card?" Avery nodded. "Yes. You can scan it." Rebecca offered a tight, condescending smile. "I don't need to. I've worked here 10 years. I can tell when something doesn't add up." Avery raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly isn't adding up?" The pause that followed felt like an elevator plummeting. Rebecca looked Avery up and down. Hoodie. Jeans. Worn-out sneakers. "You'd be surprised how often people try to sneak in here," she said, loud enough for a man reading the Wall Street Journal to look up. "They think just having a card means they're welcome." "Isn't that kind of the point?" Avery asked, keeping her voice calm. Rebecca didn't flinch. "Not when the card is fake." Avery narrowed her eyes. "Would you say that if I were wearing a blazer and heels?" Rebecca crossed her arms. "We have policies. I follow them. Do your policies involve profiling?" That made Rebecca stiffen. She didn't answer. She just waved over a security guard. Carl Monroe arrived within seconds, tall, broad-shouldered, with a resting face that said, "I don't have time for nonsense." Rebecca turned to him. "This guest is trying to use a fake card to enter the lounge. I asked her to leave. She's refusing." Avery interjected. "I never refused. I asked her to scan the card and verify my reservation." Carl looked between them. "You have ID?" he asked. Avery handed over her driver's license and boarding pass without hesitation. He glanced at them, nodded. "These match the name on the card?" Rebecca rolled her eyes. "That doesn't mean the card's legit." Carl sighed. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to step outside." Avery blinked. "You haven't even checked the system." "I'm not the system," Carl replied. "I just enforce the rules." Avery didn't move. "You're making a mistake," she said. "I'm not just a traveler. I'm part of the team that built this airport's infrastructure. I helped design your access system." Rebecca scoffed. "And I'm the Queen of England." That got a few chuckles from nearby seats. Avery stood her ground. "Do you really want to find out who I am the hard way?" But it was too late. Carl gently but firmly placed a hand on her elbow. "This isn't the time or the place," he said. "No," Avery replied, stepping back, freeing her arm. "This is exactly the time and the place." Because in that moment, she realized, it wasn't just about her. It was about every single person who had ever walked into a space they paid for and were told they didn't belong. So she turned, stepped out of the lounge, and pulled out her phone. She wasn't angry. She wasn't flustered. She was focused. Because sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is the one they just kicked out. Outside the lounge, the terminal buzzed with the usual noise, gate announcements, rolling luggage, and the rhythmic beep of carts shuttling passengers to far corners of the airport. But inside Avery Johnson's mind, there was only stillness. She stood by a support pillar near gate C-118, one hand gripping the handle of her backpack, the other pulling out her phone. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't even mad. She was calculating. She opened her contact list and tapped one name. Maya Ruiz, Chief Operating Officer at Airlink, and Avery's right hand since day one. The line rang once, then twice, then, Maya Ruiz. Avery's voice was calm, but laced with steel. We have a problem at Newark. Maya knew that tone. It meant someone had just crossed a line they couldn't uncross. What happened? Maya asked sharply. I was just removed from the United Sky Lounge, Avery replied, her words measured. No ID check. No scan. They saw the hoodie, not the credentials. Maya inhaled audibly through her nose. Jesus. Do I need to fly out? No, Avery said. I need you to access the Newark systems. I want a full system lockdown of lounge access protocols. Immediately. Maya didn't question it. Done, she said. ETA 2 minutes. I also want camera access for the last 15 minutes. Gate C118. Pull footage. Flag Rebecca Holmes and a security officer named Carl Monroe. Oh, and prepare a full internal report for the board. They'll want it before this goes public. You want PR on standby? Avery paused. No, not yet. Let them make their next mistake first. Maya didn't need more. She'd worked with Avery long enough to know when to go quiet and just move. She clicked off the call, already typing code into her terminal in D.C., where Aerolink's headquarters stood like a concrete sentinel of tech dominance. Avery slid her phone back into her pocket. The airport lights reflected off her elite diamond card, still clutched in her other hand, now bent slightly from the tension of her grip. People walked past her, oblivious. She watched a janitor mop the edge of the terminal's polished floor. A toddler screamed near the vending machines. A business traveler on his phone nearly bumped into her, never looking up. The world kept moving, but Avery was already thinking 10 moves ahead. 1 move in, she was escorted out. Move 2. She just triggered a silent lockdown of the very system that powered the lounge that had rejected her. In 30 seconds, United Sky Lounge wouldn't be able to process a single check-in. Their scanners? Frozen. Their data streams? Offline. And when the staff tried to fix it, they'd realize someone upstream had pulled the plug. Someone who didn't just visit this airport. Someone who built it. As Avery stood quietly beside the gate, her phone buzzed again. Maya. System lockdown active. Lounge scanners disabled. Surveillance footage uploading to your cloud drive now. Avery texted back one word. Good. Then she turned back toward the lounge, her face expressionless. The reckoning had officially begun. It was the kind of moment no one planned for, especially not Rebecca Holmes. While she straightened her blazer and reset her fake smile behind the lounge desk, she didn't realize her biggest mistake wasn't what she had just done. It was who had seen her do it. 3 rows away, across the glass wall that separated first-class comfort from the chaos of public boarding zones, sat Trey Daniels. 22. Journalism major. Born with a phone in one hand and a social conscience in the other. He hadn't intended to record anything that day. He was just killing time before his flight to Atlanta. But when he saw a security guard ushering out a black woman, quiet, composed, and clearly confused, something in him clicked. He hit record. He caught the words, the posture, the tension, and most of all, the arrogance. Rebecca's smirk, Carl's unbothered shrug, the way Avery stood her ground without raising her voice. That said more than anything else. What made Trey press upload wasn't just the injustice. It was what he saw in the woman's eyes before she walked away. Power. The kind that didn't yell. The kind that watched. And waited. He posted the 84-second clip on Twitter with one caption. She built the system. They kicked her out of it. Hashtag Newark scandal. Hashtag Avery Johnson. Within minutes, his phone buzzed non-stop. Comments flooded in. Wait. Avery Johnson? Like, the Aerolink CEO? She's the one who developed biometric access for half of U.S. airports. Yo, somebody's getting fired today. By the time his boarding group was called, the clip had 90,000 views. His fingers shook as he opened TikTok and uploaded a version with voiceover. Meanwhile, a few gates down, Sarah Lee, a 29-year-old travel blogger and DEI advocate, saw the video. With 640,000 followers across platforms, she knew a flashpoint when she saw one. She tossed her cold brew, grabbed her camera rig, and walked straight toward the Sky Lounge. She didn't need clearance. She just needed the truth. Filming live, she narrated calmly as she approached the front desk, documenting the frozen kiosk screens and nervous glances from employees. "This," she said, turning the lens to the empty scanner. "This is the price of prejudice. Real-time consequence. Watch what happens when the wrong person gets mistreated, and the internet finds out." By the time she hit post, Trey's original tweet had crossed 3 million views. The hashtag lounge lockdown exploded onto trending lists. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Reddit, every corner of the internet echoed the same message. They kicked out the woman who owns the room. Inside the lounge, the silence thickened. Systems were still down. Guests were confused. Rebecca's hands trembled, but she didn't know why. Not yet. But the storm had already landed, and every second brought it closer to her. 14 minutes had passed. That's all it took for the world to flip upside down. Inside the lounge, Rebecca was starting to panic. The lounge's badge readers were still down. The scanners hadn't rebooted. A dozen diamond-tier passengers were now standing around, annoyed, confused, and getting louder by the minute. Rebecca tapped her earpiece, trying to reach tech support. Nothing. Even her internal dashboard access was frozen. Carl, the security officer, leaned against a pillar, arms crossed, clearly irritated. "I don't know what system glitch you triggered," he muttered, "but corporate's gonna eat somebody alive." That's when the glass doors slid open, and Avery Johnson stepped back in. This time, she wasn't alone. At her side was Lisa Grant, in a tailored navy pantsuit with courtroom energy and a presence that screamed, "You're already losing." Lisa was general counsel for Airlink, and her reputation was as sharp as her heels. Behind them, 2 more individuals entered, one carrying a sleek aluminum briefcase, the other holding an iPad. The room went still. Rebecca's face dropped. Her lips parted slightly, like her mind had just realized what her ego refused to believe. Avery walked straight to the front desk. Centered. In complete control. Carl stepped forward, uncertain. "Ma'am, you've already been escorted." Lisa cut him off, flipping open a leather folder. "Officer Carl Monroe, correct?" she asked crisply. "Under New Jersey state law and Port Authority policy, you are required to stand down when a contracted executive reclaims control over a client-integrated system." Carl blinked. I don't know what that means." "It means," Avery said quietly, finally speaking again, "this lounge and its infrastructure are built on my company's code. Right now, you're standing inside a system I designed. And I just shut it down." Murmurs rippled across the room. The man in the briefcase opened a laptop and synced with the lounge's network. The woman with the iPad pulled up biometric access logs. Lisa handed a printed document across the desk to Rebecca. "This is a notice of contract breach and ethics violation," she said flatly. "Effective immediately, you are suspended from your role as lounge manager pending further investigation." Rebecca stared at the paper, stunned. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You profiled a paying passenger without cause," Lisa continued, "and in doing so, violated not only federal anti-discrimination laws but also our private contract agreement with United Airlines." Carl took a step back. "I didn't know," he began. "You didn't ask," Avery interrupted, turning to him. "You enforced authority without verification. That's how systems break, not through bad data, but bad assumptions." The room was silent. Even the jazz playlist had stopped looping. One of the lounge attendants, Sophie Tran, stood awkwardly in the back. She'd watched everything unfold, afraid to speak. But now she stepped forward. "I saw her card scan valid," Sophie said quietly. "I didn't say anything. I was scared." Avery looked at her, and for the first time that day, she smiled. "Thank you for saying it now." She turned to Rebecca one last time. "You assumed power made you untouchable. But real power," Avery said, voice steady, "doesn't humiliate. It protects." Then she looked around the lounge, at every passenger, every staff member frozen in place. "I'm not here for revenge," she said. "I'm here for accountability." And today, accountability had a name. The Sky Lounge had never hosted a meeting like this. Just 15 minutes earlier, it had been a sanctuary of silence and cucumber water. Now, it felt like the opening scene of a corporate thriller. At the center stood Avery Johnson. Still in her hoodie, still in sneakers, but now unmistakably the most powerful person in the room. Across from her sat Gregory Whitmore, Regional Director for United Airlines East Coast Operations. He had arrived red-faced and breathless, having been pulled from a boardroom lunch across the terminal. His expensive suit was slightly rumpled. His confidence, even more so. Beside him was Michelle Hartman, Vice President of Customer Experience, summoned from JFK by emergency call. Her expression was unreadable, her phone buzzing silently every 20 seconds with media alerts. Behind Avery stood Lisa Grant, cool and composed, flanked by the Aerolink compliance team. A laptop projected key footage from the past hour. Silent, high definition, and damning. The room's guests, the first-class travelers, a few off-duty pilots, and lounge staff, had stopped pretending to sip their drinks. They were watching history unfold. Some filmed discreetly. Others just stared. Gregory cleared his throat. "Miss Johnson, first, let me apologize." Avery raised a hand. "Don't. Not yet." Gregory paused, thrown off by the calm finality in her tone. Avery looked directly at him. "I'm not here to be soothed. I'm here to understand how a system designed to provide elite access could be so quickly weaponized against someone who looks like me." Michelle Hartman shifted uncomfortably. "We're deeply concerned, and we'll absolutely investigate." "You won't need to," Avery interrupted. "We already did." Lisa clicked a key on the laptop, and the video began. The room watched, Rebecca refusing to scan the card, Carl stepping in without checking ID. The exact moment Avery was escorted out, while a white couple, visibly confused, was waved in behind her without question. Then came audio. Clean, clear, captured via the internal mic on the lounge check-in terminal, as per Aerolink's built-in compliance protocols. Rebecca's voice. "She's probably one of those tech bloggers pretending to be rich. Let's not make the place look like the subway." Gasp. Audible disgust from the back row. Michelle Hartman closed her eyes. Gregory looked like someone had just pulled the floor from under him. Avery let the silence linger. Then she spoke. "I built this access system. It's smart enough to know when a card is counterfeit. It's smart enough to detect fraud. But it can't override human bias." She looked straight at Gregory. "Your employees didn't fail because of broken code. They failed because no one ever told them, this behavior has consequences." Lisa slid a folder across the table. Inside, a formal ethics violation report, copies of breach of contract clauses, and a termination recommendation. Gregory opened it and blanched. "You're recommending a full review of all Newark-based lounge staff?" "Yes," Lisa replied, unflinching. "With mandatory anti-bias training, immediate suspension for Rebecca Holmes and Carl Monroe, and compensation for affected guests, including a public apology." Michelle interjected, trying to salvage ground. "We can issue an internal memo." "No," Avery said firmly. "You're going to issue a press release. Today." Gregory exhaled, looking at the gathering storm on social media. #LoungeLockdown now trending #1 nationwide. He looked back at Avery. "You could have done this privately." "I could have," she agreed. "But discrimination rarely happens in private. It happens here. In public. Loudly. While everyone else looks away." She stood. "I'm done asking people to do better. Now I'm requiring it." And with that, Avery Johnson didn't just take her seat back. She redefined the room. As Avery Johnson's final words echoed through the lounge, the temperature in the room shifted. Not physically, but emotionally. It was the kind of silence that follows impact. A stillness born not from calm, but from reckoning. Gregory Whitmore sat frozen, his hand still resting on the folder Lisa had handed him. Michelle Hartman glanced toward the lounge staff, several of whom now stood motionless near the back wall, looking anywhere but at Avery. Then came the sound of rapid footsteps, heels clicking sharply against the tile. Rebecca Holmes re-entered the lounge, clearly summoned by a frantic message moments earlier. She straightened her blazer, her posture still defiant, but her eyes betrayed her. She scanned the room and realized instantly, the power dynamic had shifted. Irrevocably. Lisa Grant stood, folder in hand. "Ms. Holmes, please step forward." Rebecca hesitated, just for a beat, then obeyed. Lisa opened the folder and began reading aloud, deliberately, each word heavy with consequence. Effective immediately, due to documented violation of both federal anti-discrimination statutes and your employer's ethical conduct agreement, you are relieved of all managerial duties and placed on permanent administrative leave. Gasps fluttered around the room. Even Rebecca's breath caught in her throat. "This is insane," she whispered. "I was doing my job." "No," Avery said quietly from her seat. "You were doing what you thought your job allowed you to do, without accountability. That ends now." Next to Rebecca, Carl shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't said a word since the meeting began, but now he tried. "I was just following protocol." "Protocol doesn't start with assuming who belongs," Avery said, rising from her chair. "It starts with verifying facts. Something you never even attempted." Lisa handed him a smaller envelope. "Effective immediately, you are suspended pending further investigation and retraining. You may retain your job only if you complete a new 60-day performance and equity compliance program." Carl looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. "Not here. Not now." Then Avery turned toward the staff gathered along the back wall. Her eyes landed on Sophie Tran, the only one who'd spoken up, the only one who'd dared. "Sophie," she said, "step forward." The young woman's hands trembled slightly as she walked toward the center of the room. "You did something today that no training, no policy, no manual can ever teach," Avery said. "You spoke the truth, even when it was uncomfortable." She nodded to Lisa, who presented Sophie with a slim envelope, different than the others. "Consider this your promotion," Avery continued. "Effective immediately, you're now lead guest services liaison for all Aerolink-affiliated lounges at Newark. Your job is simple. Make sure what happened today never happens again." Sophie's eyes welled with tears. The room erupted in quiet applause. It wasn't thunderous, but it was powerful. Then Avery turned to Gregory and Michelle one last time. "I won't dismantle the entire system today, but I've just proven I can. So next time, don't let there be a next time." She didn't smile. She didn't have to. The message had landed, and the system had heard her. By 6:15 p.m. that evening, the story had already reached coast to coast. What started as a 90-second video posted by a college student became the headline of every major news outlet in America within hours. CNN. Black Tech CEO denied lounge access, then pulls power plug on entire system. NBC. Newark lounge in lockdown after discrimination incident involving airport tech partner. And on the front page of the New York Times Digital, she wasn't just a guest. She was the architect. The name Avery Johnson had become a household topic overnight, not just in Silicon Valley, but in living rooms, universities, corporate headquarters, and HR departments across the country. The hashtags #LoungeLockdown and #AveryBuilt it trended at number 1 and 2 on X, formerly Twitter, for over 48 hours. TikTok creators analyzed the confrontation frame by frame. Legal experts weighed in on cable news. Public opinion wasn't divided. It was unanimous. The footage was clear. The consequences had been swift, and the impact unstoppable. By the next morning, United Airlines had issued a public apology, formal, written, and pinned to every one of their social media platforms. "We take full responsibility for the events that occurred at Newark Liberty Airport on Thursday. Discrimination of any kind is unacceptable and directly contradicts our values. We thank Ms. Johnson for her leadership and for holding us accountable. As of today, we are launching a comprehensive review of all partner lounges nationwide." But Avery didn't post a single word online. No comment. No interview. No clapback. That silence spoke louder than 1,000 tweets. Because her actions had already done the talking. Inside Aerolink's Manhattan HQ, the media requests poured in. Morning shows, business panels, even a guest invitation to The Daily Show. Avery declined them all. Her only public appearance was at a closed-door panel with DEI leaders, where she said one line that later went viral. When you control the system, you don't have to scream. You just change the rules. HR departments across the country took notes. 3 other major airports called Airlink within 72 hours, requesting consultation on inclusive access practices. The ripple effect extended far beyond lounges. It touched recruiting, onboarding, executive policy. Rebecca Holmes. Her LinkedIn disappeared the next day. Carl Monroe entered the training program without contest. And Sophie Tran? Her LinkedIn inbox exploded with messages of support, mentorship, and offers from executives who saw something rare: integrity in motion. But the biggest shift didn't happen online. It happened in every room where someone finally asked, "Are we doing this right? Or are we just repeating what's always been done?" What happened at Gate C-118 wasn't just about one woman being denied access to a luxury lounge. It was about what happens when assumptions speak louder than facts. It was about the quiet, daily erosion of dignity that happens when people are judged not by what they carry in their minds or hearts, but by what they wear, how they speak, or the color of their skin. Avery Johnson didn't yell. She didn't curse. She didn't demand revenge. She demanded respect, and got it, not by playing the game louder, but by showing she helped write the rules. Her story reminds us of something powerful. Real power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it shows up in sneakers and a hoodie. Quiet, watching, calculating, ready. Too often, we think justice needs to be loud to be real. But this story proves that dignity, held firm, can disrupt the status quo louder than any shout. And that's the lesson here. Whether you're running a company, working the front desk, or just trying to navigate a world full of bias and noise, you have more power than you think. The power to speak up, like Sophie did. The power to admit you were wrong, like Carl eventually did. The power to rebuild something better, like Avery chose to do, not just for herself, but for everyone who would come after her. Because when you stand your ground with quiet conviction, the world doesn't just notice. It shifts. So the next time you're in a room and someone gets dismissed because of how they look, the next time a voice is ignored because it isn't wrapped in the right accent or outfit, ask yourself, am I repeating the system or rewriting it? That question might be uncomfortable, but it's the kind that changes cultures, companies, and conversations. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of change the world needs most. Because true leadership doesn't always show up in suits. Sometimes, it walks in wearing scuffed sneakers, scans in with a valid card, and rewires the system from the inside out. So if you're watching this, and you've ever been told you don't belong, remember Avery. And remember this. You don't need permission to belong. You just need to know who you are. And be ready when the world finds out. Clapperboard, if this story moved you, leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that quiet strength is real strength. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that restore faith, fight injustice, and remind us that truth always finds its way.